All right, and we're live right on time. We got Bruce from Golden Eagle Cards. So thank you, man. I asked you to come on the channel, what, like a day or two ago? It was really short notice. I appreciate you being flexible and figuring it out. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty flexible when it comes to just hey, you want to do this thing? Sure, why not?
Yeah, it
I
was
have a
funny.
hard time saying no.
I think it was yesterday actually, because you came out with a video yesterday, and you're really
Yeah,
like you're a very positive guy, right? You're always
yeah,
talking. I know you're doing a lot of gameplay content, and the game players seem absolutely thrilled with the game design of the game, having a lot of fun with. You could talk about like some of the tournament stuff you've been doing with your buddies, but there's like community tournaments going on. There's gameplay videos. You did some cool stuff with underplayed, overplayed type thing. I think
yeah,
I watched that one like two or three times. I was like, did I see this one yet? Because I find that pretty interesting as a collector. Like, what are the good cards?
yeah.
How's the gameplay evolving? But yesterday, like after coincidentally, after I contacted you, you put out a video that looked like it was like there's something amiss going on.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird timing for sure.
Yeah, and but then I watched it and it like really wasn't that big a deal, like from my perspective. We could get into that as well, but it was just kind of
Yeah,
funny. So it wasn't the reason I contacted you. Actually, I saw your channel is doing like really well, and
oh, thanks.
I thought it'd be a lot of fun to talk about like gameplay for a change and kind of get a player's perspective of the new tournament that was announced and just kind of like the state of the game in general. But do you want to
Absolutely.
like intro with like what your channel is and what it's about?
Yeah. So I run Golden Eagle Cards. Uh, I enjoy doing the stats and like breakdowns of popular cards and what makes decks good and why they are good and how you play them. I really enjoy the gameplay. I would say I'm a player and a collector. Like I have been buying more alpha foils than I want to
Really?
admit.
Okay.
Uh,
Alpha, nice.
yeah. So I back to the Kickstarter when it came out and never looked back.
Yeah, awesome. So you've been in since the very beginning. Were you in the Discord early on when Eric was pretty active and when everybody was
Not
chiming in on play
not but
stuff?
for when did I like it was a month or two before the Kickstarter finish is when I jumped in. So I
Okay.
didn't get really early, but yeah, when it before Alpha came out.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've heard stories, but it was like a really interesting time pre-release because Eric himself was very active. He didn't really. I think like Simon was one of the first people in the Discord as well, but he wasn't like officially affiliated with the company right away. So it was mostly just like Eric and a bunch of community members. And oh, they're saying my mic is low. Oh, hang on a second. Maybe I gotta. There we go. Maybe if I put it
Oh,
close
bring
to
it
my
in. There
mouth.
you go. I did have to
How's
turn you up
that?
a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you
thanks for
go.
speaking up in the chat. So in the early days, he was like very active, and the game was like extremely raw. So it was like really interesting for the players. And
It's
there
kind of
was
like
I remember there was
open play
one.
testing or something.
Well, it was there was like a lot of like they had the tabletop simulator going pretty early,
Mm-hmm.
and then they actually I think even before that was ready, they had the print to play cards. So a lot of people were just printing them off and playing physically. But the mechanics were like wildly different, and you see that in the sample cards. If
Yeah.
you've seen any of the sample cards, like there a lot of them were overpowered and completely imbalanced.
So
So the yeah,
weird thing
go
about
ahead.
sample cards is I bought my first sorcery card from you. It was an Ice Lance back in before Alpha
Oh,
was released.
damn, really? Oh,
Yep.
I didn't even remember that. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, and then like the cards were just wildly OP, so they were tuning everything. And then by the time Alpha came out, it was like night and day difference on a lot of these cards. Some were like complete design overhauls, some were just casting cost tweaks and power level tweaks, that type of thing. But yeah, it was interesting times.
Very cool.
So you're an early adopter. What were you doing before Sorcery came out? Were you into other games?
So I played Magic when did Brothers War come out? Like 2020. That was my
I don't know.
first
I missed
introduction.
that era. Yeah.
That was my first introduction to any trading card game. I had played
Really?
Pokemon in
Okay.
the '90s, so I have like an old Pokemon collection. So TCGs aren't super new, but like competitive or like playing the game is 5 years or so. Nothing. I haven't been playing TCG since the '90s, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so you played in the 90s, took a long break, and reemerged in 2020-ish back to Magic?
I would say I was a kid who opened
Kid
Pokemon cards.
collector?
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. So you
yeah.
started playing, wow, you just started playing like in the past 5 years. That's impressive because you're a pretty good sorcery player now, right? Like you're doing pretty well in the tournaments and that type of thing?
I don't know about that, but I do okay.
Yeah. So do you play in the like, I guess let's start with did you play in the official Sorcery League, or are you mostly doing your own league setup now?
So in the beginning, we did I think it's season 2 of this TTS Iris League is when I
Yep.
first started joining that. And then starting 2025, doing the Sorcerer Summit with CJ and trying to test
Nice.
out some different formats, different rules, some balance changes, just tweaking, just play testing ourselves.
Is that at your LGS, or is that TTS based?
Oh, that's TTS. That's on Discord.
Okay.
And, yeah. But yeah, and then I play every Thursday at the local game store.
Oh, okay. So where are you located again?
Columbus, Ohio. So we play at 5-6 Gaming.
Okay. You guys have a pretty good scene there. What's the average turnout?
6 on a lower end. I think last week we had 7, and then like we hit at 8 every now and again. I think at our Arthurian Legends release we had 15 or 14 players. So I mean, there's a community in Columbus.
Okay. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, so it's kind of ebbs and flows, and I know we're kind of in a slower period, obviously, between sets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess let's start with Alpha and Beta though. Like so you came in right at Kickstarter stage, but you just started playing at that point, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, you would have been playing TTS for a while before physical cards came out.
Yeah, so I was playing TTS before Alpha was in the hands of everybody, and then I didn't go to Gen Con 2023, the first Gen Con they were at, because I had just been playing for like 2 or 3 months. I was like, I'm not good enough to go, or I don't know. There was like a hesitation there.
Sure.
So I made it a point to go last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
You went to so you missed the first year, but you went last year. Nice.
Yeah.
You going this year again?
I'm going for limited for sure.
Okay.
I think I'm just going for a day. So Columbus is only like 3 hours from Gen Con, so I can like drive out and drive back in the same day and not have to deal with the Gen Con. I don't know, herd.
Nice. You thinking about Sorcery Con this year, or does it depend on location and time?
It's just travel and funds and time, and So Gen Con's doable, and like all the Midwest circuit with Kyle and Explorer series is where I'm going to spend most of my time.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's another nice tournament scene kicking off.
Yeah.
So the Alpha set came out. You said you had played Magic before. How did you think what was the appeal of Sorcery? How did you even discover it, I wonder?
I don't know how much flack I'll get for this, but I'm a Rudy enjoyer.
Okay.
He's funny. He's a great entertainer, and he made that's actually how I found out about the Kickstarter. And
sure, yeah, a lot of people did. Makes sense.
And I seen their art, just like, all right, I'm in. I'm just in. I'll figure out the game later. But yeah, jumped in after Rudy did that, and before that I had played Magic Limited. Like I play Commander with some friends, but I don't really enjoy Commander a whole lot as a game. It's everybody plays their own little mini game within the game, and then everybody just kind of does their own thing. I don't know. I like being interactive with my opponent and like managing the board state together, and I don't know. It's a shared experience, and I like it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what do you think? So that's a pretty linear turn-based game. What do you think about the grid design when you heard about that from Sorcery? Were you into it, or were you skeptical?
I wasn't sure how it was going to like translate to like gameplay, but after playing the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 games, I enjoyed chess growing up. And so the 3-dimensional space and the simpler card design felt much more impactful, as like my player decisions mattered more playing this game than it did in Magic, if that makes sense. Like,
yep. Yeah.
Where you play and your site development and where your minions go, every little thing matters. And you win or lose the game based on something you did turn 3. Like if you went left or right, you match this, like your early and mid game decisions determine the later game outcome. So like if you get to somebody at the door, yeah, you got them to the door, but you haven't won yet. If you didn't set up 2 turns before, like if I'm thinking 2 turns ahead. All right, if I get you door here, when you're at door, I need to be able to hit you when you're at door. You need to be thinking 2 turns ahead of like, what is the future board state going to look like? How can I pressure you to move in a certain way? How do I get you to do what I need you to do to win the game? And like I don't know if maybe it was Magic's just like card design is too complex, or there's just too much stuff going on, but I never really understood what was happening in Magic and like value engines and like profitable trades. Sorcery's simpler card design, I think, helped me become a better card TCG player. Just learning, like this, not just losing automatically from a card that says draw 3 cards. It's just, it helped me understand the value of a card in a TCG game.
Yeah, so some people think I've never played Sorcery, but I actually have. So I play. I don't know if you know Angerworm, Jared. He was at Gen Con last year, so you probably saw him there. So he lives about an hour from me, so he actually taught me the game one time when I was swinging by his area. I stopped in for a few. It took a few hours, man. We played the pre-con decks, to make it nice and easy on me.
It takes a minute.
But yeah, it took a while. It was very mentally taxing, trying to asking a lot of questions, understanding all the mechanics and stuff. But similarly, I had only played Magic before, and then I played Hearthstone for a few years.
Yeah.
In recent years, and did you ever play that by chance? No.
I saw it. I was never grabbed by the online TCG stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it was just, since I got little kids and stuff, it's a convenient, I can't really sit down and play with people for hours or plan ahead to do so. So
yeah,
Hearthstone was convenient, and it's very similar where you get increased mana each turn like you typically would in Magic if you draw into it, if you don't get mana screwed. So like you were saying, it also it's somewhat has pretty heavy RNG, but it also has some strategic elements where those mid-range rounds really are influential in taking control or losing it, and it's hard to recover. But in Sorcery, so when I played that, I found that the mana system or the resource system was fairly different. Once you are kind of at that mid-range, you have all the resources you need, and it's more about board positioning and kind of playing the right cards in hand or drawing into them to kind of influence the board state. So it struck me as interesting that you said that it's less complex than Magic. Oh, you thought Magic was more complicated.
Card design, specifically card design. Yeah,
card design.
Dapper Vampire is a 5-mana 4/4 flyer, and it flies. That's all it does. It has lifelink, but essentially that's all it does. Yeah. In Magic, a 5-mana something has 2 different abilities, and I don't. It's just the card design of Magic is different. Sorcery is the complexity lays in the positioning of the board and where your minions are and where your sites are.
Yeah, and I think part of the disconnect is probably I played Magic as a kid in the 90s, and I have not played it ever since. So I have no idea. The current state of it is, I have no idea what Commander is or how that's played. So the modern state of it, I have seen some of the cards where it's a wall of text and there's all these different options, which really wasn't a big thing in the early days, as I could recall. So yeah, things have changed a lot. So I have some. It's kind of funny because I have some of the infamous paintings you were talking about recently, the Candlemass Monks. I just love the painting. It looks so different.
Yeah, no, that looks wonderful.
But I know that one's controversial. And then the ring. I actually bought the ring well before Arthurian Legends came out. I had no idea what the design mechanic was, and it just kind of got lucky that it was such a mega powerful card. But I just love Severance stuff, and I thought it was I like relics and kind of the artifacts.
Yeah.
So I kind of was I'll pick up one of the artifacts. Just a ring randomly. It's Severance. It's a pretty nice piece.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be
the best card of the set. Yeah.
And I saw your tournament is kind of creative where you're limiting certain cards and avatars, right? Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So our upcoming events in the Sorcerer Summit is going to be a pointed list. I don't know if anybody who's watching is familiar with Canadian Highlander. Now, Highlander is different in that they have access to all 30 years of Magic, but I was recently watching one of their videos recently where they say they want to have access to everything, but they don't want everybody to do everything. In the sense of we don't really want. I don't know. We did a match reports for our last league with the ring. The ring gives you about a 7% extra bonus and chance to winning. So if you didn't draw the ring versus if you did, you have a 7% extra chance of winning, which seems reasonable. But it feels so one-sided when you do have a ring. But I forget where I was going with that. But yeah.
Yeah. So you're limiting certain cards that have big impact.
Yes, and then then we also have Divine Healing on there because Divine Healing kind of goes with that cycle of 1 mana, 3 threshold, 7 do 7 of something.
Wow.
And specifically in Archimago, when you get to pay 2 mana and reset the game, essentially, you cast it, gain 7, cast it again, gain 7 more, and you've gained 14 life that turn. And maybe you have an Angel's Egg out and you gain more life. And it just feels they're just deflating. It's the same thing in 4020 when Ragnarok came around and CJ broke the game that way. Anything after turn 6, it reset the game again. It was just that same like none of my decisions mattered turn 1 through 5. It's that same kind of feeling. None of my decisions, but a lot of my decisions just are negated by what seems to be a very easy access to a card. So we wanted to restrict that a little bit. And I actually played a game, I think it was today, with the pointed list of Archimago and only having 1 Divine Healing in the deck. And it felt like a fun game because I didn't reset the game, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I think it's a very interesting and possible avenue for the future.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I've never heard anyone say the name, like you guys call it Magoo.
Magoo.
Gameplay channels.
Yeah.
And I've never heard someone call it Archimago. I've been calling it like Archimaggio. And I was like, this is the only Italian sorcerer in the game, right? But I probably added a couple letters in there, it sounds like.
I also call Saracen Raiders Sarkhan Raiders.
Okay.
I can't read, so.
Like Sorcery's got some wild names, man. It was funny. I think some of the employees, like once they joined the company, they were all calling it something different, and we're asking Eric, like, what's the deal? And even him, he seemed like he was struggling with the words. So maybe his co-creator came up with some of those. It's kind of funny.
It's just easier to say, right? People are lazy. That's Magoo. Yeah.
So speaking of which, though, like, so he's like a super OP avatar. Do you think it works? But I've heard you say like it works okay for draft. It's more in constructed that it's a little.
I wouldn't even say he's overpowered. He creates a frustrating play experience, if that makes sense. Where he gets to do his thing without much interaction. There's funeral pyres, and I think that's really only thing that hits the graveyard consistently. And this is specifically to competitive play. I think 98% of games played are totally fine. They're fun. Sorcery's amazing. I'm only talking, like my video yesterday was only concerned at the highest competitive level, because that most competitive players want to do things that are uninteractable. They don't want you to mess with their game plan. Like, that's just a general good rule to play if you're trying to be competitive. And I don't know. I think that's just very detrimental to like new player onboarding and player longevity. If I am over here trying to do my thing and I can't interact with you, that's just frustrating. It just leads to too many games that feel like non-games, and too many games that just are like, oh, you drew better than me, cool, you win. I didn't make any decisions that lost. I'm fine for losing constantly. I've lost more games than I can count. It's just I want to be responsible for my loss, if that makes sense. It's not.
Yep.
That's my concern with it. It's not that it's unwinnable. It's not that it is unbeatable. It's like it has a 55-60% win rate. And it's a hard deck to play. It is a hard deck to play. I'm not saying it's easy or anybody can just pick it up, but yeah, it's frustrating.
Okay. So, but does it work differently in, because like Arthurian Legends was to be more of a draft oriented set. Do you think it's the same fundamental issue, right? It's not that it's, like you say, it's not that it's overpowered. It's just its mechanic isn't as interactive.
Yes. It's just an uninteractive avatar. That's my, I've had a lot of conversations with this, and that's what it's kind of boiled down to. It's like, I don't mind if you're doing something that's mean and controlling. I just want to be able to feel like I can interact with you and do something to stop you from doing whatever you're doing. And right now, it's not really a consistent strategy to do that. Like, you can pressure recite, you can play a certain way, but there's no counters to it. He gets to do whatever he's going to do. It's what it boils down to.
And you also mentioned like Sorcerer. Is there an issue with the Sorcerer, the original Sorcerer?
Like, it's a fine card. It hasn't won like super great events. It's just a deck building restriction that you have to beat, because Sorcerer Aggro is the bar you have to beat to be competitive. It's just like the first check to get there. And if Sorcerer wasn't it, there'd be something else. Sorcerer is just pure value. A card in a game is more valuable than anything you can probably be doing. The more cards you have, the more options you have. The more options you have, the better chances you have at winning.
Yep, makes sense. So is aggro like I know in like Hearthstone there'd be like some hyper aggro decks that would just kind of like if you drew into the right hand, it's just like auto win. You just steamroll the opponent. People would do those a lot because you could win faster. You could rank up. They had a ladder system. Is that a thing in Sorcery, or is it like fairly balanced? You would say between mid range, control, aggro.
Aggro is very strong. It is, like I said, it's the check deck. You have to beat aggro to be competitive. Like in 4020, we had Fury Road. Fury Road was a low curve. Like you played a bunch of 2-drops and 3-drops, and you just swarmed the board with minions, and you just overwhelmed your opponent, which is a strategy. With Arthurian Legends, with the number of charge minions we got, I think you can have like 12 or 15 charge minions. And the charge is undercosted in my opinion, but I'm not a game designer. But the problem with the aggro stuff right now is it is the most consistent thing you can be doing. Because you have access to 15 cards, the likelihood of you seeing them in your first 10 cards is very, very high. So it is just a consistent thing to be doing, and it just leads to very linear games of, like you said, getting steamrolled. Like you play a 2 mana charge, you attack. Play a 3 mana 3/3 charge attack. Play a 4 mana minion charge attack. Like it's just there's a very little breathing room in that kind of play style. It's just I mean it is what it is. We'll see how the meta evolves, but I think mid-range can beat charge. And if Archimago was banned, I think Death Speaker control with like Nimbus Djinn and or Moth's Elementalist control with Mariner's Curses and Island Leviathans would do well. Right now, Archimago is just the best control deck you can be doing, so it suffocates all the other control decks.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's cool, and I like a slower pace, more interactive game too. I could kind of relate to that. When I was back in like college era playing the like war games, like Command and Conquer series and stuff like that, like kind of building out an army or more strategically aligning forces to do things or counteract. Except there was, did you ever get into that at all? There's one Tiberian Sun where you load up one of the stealth tanks with engineers, and you just pop up next to their base and take everything.
No,
so other than that, that's like a non-interactive mechanic that just like trolls people and pisses them off. It's funny.
Yeah, so I think the most fun thing you can be doing in Sorcery is mid-range. So mid-range is just playing creatures and like efficient creatures, and so you're like playing the game of chess with minions, and that's what I find the most fun about the game of Sorcery. Maybe people have control is the most fun, or aggro is the most mid-game, or mid-range is the most fun for me.
Yeah. What do you think about so like you had a standard set that was very large, 403 cards, and then Arthurian Legends, I forget, I think they kind of said it would be a smaller set, and we were getting some hints closer to release of what that meant size wise. So I mean, roughly half or so. It was fairly small, but then like I think the surprise that I can't recall if I knew pre-release or if it was comments Eric made at Siege at the Core, is a tournament in Europe where they interviewed him, and maybe he just elaborated more, but he was talking about how he likes a draft style play, so he kind of made Arthurian Legends more tuned for that. What do you think about that? Like, I thought it was kind of interesting that I would have thought that they would have came out with a few core sets more akin to beta. And then maybe like once the base was stabilized, once there was more players that figured out like the rules and kind of like figured out a meta and whatnot, then they would introduce like a draft oriented set, maybe a few years or a few sets down the road. Were you kind of surprised the way they approached Arthurian Legends, and how do you think that played out? Or is playing out, I guess.
Yeah, it is playing out. I think is the more
we're still in the throes of it, right?
Yeah. Arthurian Legends in a vacuum. I'll start there. In a vacuum is a wonderful set. Like the theme is cool. Like if you draft or do sealed, you get like these knights and uniques, and you like I've got Sir Gawain or whatever, and it's like it's very thematic and very fun.
Cool.
Like over the weekend on Saturday or Sunday, we did a draft for the Explorer series. We had 30 people do a draft, and it was a lot of fun. We did 2 beta and 1 AL, and the draft experience is great for AL. I don't know if you've played any limited, but AL limited,
AL now.
It is so much fun.
Yeah,
with the lances and the squires and like I don't know, it is just a story on a board. It's just you just kind of like I played against one of my friends. He had an Elementalist Knights deck, and he just played all these really cool knights that he drafted. And I don't know, it was very fun and very cool. Going to constructed though, Arthurian Legends warped the constructed meta in a negative way, in my opinion, in the sense that the best things from Arthurian Legends are the best things to do in the game, but there's not a whole lot of like mid and lower tier Arthurian Legends stuff. Like nobody's playing a what's the 3-mana 3/2 knights that come in with a lance. But nobody's playing the knights deck in constructed. Right. There's some elementals lists that play some knights, but they're not to the highest competitive level. Like Druid and Archimago are the 2 best avatars in Sorcery right now. But Witch and Templar are some of the worst. It's just like the highs of Arthurian Legends are really, really high, and then the lows of Arthurian Legends are just like they don't do anything, which is bad or good, I don't know. And then along with charge, it just draft and limited in Arthurian Legends is wonderful. Competitive with Arthurian Legends is a little rough, but I'm very excited for Gothic. And man, I wish Gothic would come out tomorrow and then just be off to the races.
Yeah, are you part of the official playtesters of Sorcery or?
I don't know if I can say.
Oh, okay. I don't know if that's like. I thought you could say if you're in or out. I know you can't talk about it specifically, but I've heard rumors that Gothic is going to be really awesome gameplay wise.
Just by the spoiled cards of Swap, and Swap is going to be a huge boon for Water. I don't think people understand how good that is. Me and CJ did some like us playtesting with Swap as like when it was revealed. It's like the ring is a danger to play. The orb is a danger to play. All these artifacts are like if this thing gets replaced with a minion, you get all the advantage and I get nothing. It is just it's a wonderful like haha gotcha. But I'm very excited for Gothic.
So do you think that was introduced specifically because people were complaining about Ring being overpowered? Like they probably spoiled that one for a reason, right? Because that's an answer to it. Yeah.
And
they get asked, like they were asked at Sorcery Con, I think, like, what do you think about banning cards? What do you think about reserve lists? That kind of thing. And I think Eric's answer, kind of paraphrasing, was we evolved the cards and like we introduced new cards to deal with, maybe mechanics that are a little overpowered or underpowered, or even elements, right? Like the fire, like everyone says, fire, could be great, should be great. It was super fun in Magic in the early days, but it's like tragically terrible in Sorcery right now, right?
Fire?
Yeah, I thought so.
No,
the fire avatar, fire.
Elemental? Avatar of Fire. Yes,
Avatar of Fire.
Okay, Avatar of Fire.
So the element works, but the avatar sucks. The four avatars.
I think fire is the best element. Or
is it? Okay.
Yeah, and then it goes Earth is the most flexible, and then air is the best support, and then water is kind of left behind. But
water's still weak. I thought that improved a bit with AL.
It did, but not enough.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the 4-element system, and I was actually surprised. What do you think, like, about in Alpha? What was there, like 11 avatars or something? I thought that was pretty wild too. I thought they'd maybe just have the 4 elemental avatars, and then when the set actually released, I was like, man, they really leaned into this and offered a lot of, maybe because of the annual release, they felt like they needed enough diversity of play to keep people entertained for a while.
Yeah, and so back to you mentioned like Eric talked about like tweaking cards based on past sets, and that makes a lot of sense. Like they do that in Magic, and like they print something and then go, oh, we need some way to do, and so they print something in the next two sets. Or I know their like Devil Element cycle is a little longer than that, but they can kind of see things coming. The issue I find with Sorcery's one set a yearly release. I love the one set a year release. I'm just say that outright. I don't
from a player perspective.
From a player's perspective, even from a collector's perspective, it gives me time to get foils and stuff. But the answers comes like if we've all been screaming about Archimago or Magoo for the last 3 months, we still have another 7 months to wait for any kind of answers. It's just like I as a player, I want something that can affect the gameplay without set releases. I don't know what that is. That's seasonal bans. That's bans. That's point system. Just something. Even I don't really like the idea of like rules changes halfway through between sets or whatnot. But something to affect the game midway through the set cycle, just to keep it fresh up until the next set release.
So do you think that needs to be driven by the company, or it'd be better rather than like your approach where you guys are coming up with creative ways with point systems or limited quantities of cards that be played? Like there's different things you could do with rules you'd agree. I know some people have wholesale banned certain avatars.
Yeah, that is the cleanest way to do it. Like the Free City Conventicle has banned Archimago, and the Golden State Gauntlet is going to ban Archimago. And sometime in April, I think it's the 12th or 16th. I'm terrible with dates. Our local store for the Explorer series that we're going to host is going to ban Archimago in the ring. Like it does come down to the TOs, and they have said this in the past of like they want this to be community driven. It's like cool. We're going to start banning things then. But I would love a central voice in like, hey, we see these issues. We see people not having fun. We just want to tweak things. We don't want to like change the game overnight. We just want to tweak the power level of things, reduce a little bit of consistency, or like even in 4020, Jesse, who is in I think Australia or New Zealand, banned Crossroads and Roots of Yggdrasil from being in the same deck. Like it's a house rule, but he specifically cited new players having a hard time with it. And it's like, that is exactly what I see with Archimago. New players going into that. I know it's not like a very popular deck, but even just running into that, I've talked to people who have had new players run into it, and the new player just goes, I'm not in. Nope, not even going to try it anymore. It's just like, you just lost somebody. Yeah. And that's my, like, I don't know, goal or like, driving light of like, I want the new player experience. I want the player experience to be so good you can't put it down. And if you run into something like that where you go, I quit, that's an issue to me.
I think I got to say, like when I played the pre-con decks, just like the first time I was learning to play, it felt like very balanced. Like I couldn't tell really even if I was in it and like gonna win like until throughout the whole game. Really, it really came down to the wire. And playing an experienced player, you know, you're still kind of like have a fighting chance. And he kind of stared me clear of a few misplays, but because it does get complex, man. You got to deal about the multi-dimensional aspects, and kind of you have a lot of choices, you know.
The skill gap in Sorcery is wild, because it's like playing somebody who doesn't know how to play chess, playing somebody who's been playing chess for 2 years. Like it is like the person who's been playing chess for 2 years is not a very good chess player, but he's a better chess player than you are. Like the skill difference is huge.
Really? I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Like how, cause you mentioned earlier, a lot of people don't like a lot of, it's interesting cause Eric kind of wants some splashy RNG type effects, or I guess, I don't know if it's so much RNG. What do you think? Is it more like RNG, or is it just like big splash effects and cards that enhance the experiential play like you were talking about earlier and make a memorable storytelling type of moment?
Yeah, it's that storytelling moment.
Yeah.
It's like that. Oh my god, that one time you did that thing. Like that's what the goal is, right?
Okay.
And I think that's in the DNA of sorcery, of with the uniques and the rarity system.
Yeah.
Like pulling a gigantism and then swinging for however much, and like this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in our point system in the summit, we specifically didn't point or like restrict any of the uniques outside of the ring, just because ring is ubiquitous and goes in every single deck. There's no restriction. Yeah. Every other unique feels like it has its own little restriction built in. Like even Jihad on turn 2 is a very scary thing to be doing, like a very good play, but it's a 1 in 50 and you have to be in double fire. So there's its own restriction there. So we specifically didn't want to try to restrict the uniques anymore, because that's what sorcery is the big splashy turn of Atlantean Fate coming down and turning off a bunch of threshold and killing a bunch of things. Like it's just really fun and really cool that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty interesting. You're talking about like Arthurian Legends being super flavorful and experiential, like storytelling-esque, because I feel like myself, coming from collector art enthusiast primary interest angle on sorcery, as opposed to having more time to play, like I thought that AL was completely lost. I think it's completely lost upon the more collector types and people that don't play regularly how much of a flavorful set it is. Because I think if you take the time to read all the cards, and I've kind of like when I do these behind the art articles and stuff, I really dig into the mechanic. It's pairing with the art concept and talking with the artists, like why they did certain things or why Eric directed certain elements, and I get an aspect of it. Unless you're playing and you really understand those combos and how it impacts the game, and like those big swings like you were just talking about, that's kind of, I always thought there was a content opportunity there, and I was thinking the company should do that, but also the community should do that. It might be an idea for you. You talk about like most meta relevant cards, most played cards, underplayed cards, but what are some of like the combos or some of the experiential moments that you're experiencing? And I'm not putting you on the spot to say what is it now, but like a video with that kind of content, I think would be really interesting for collectors and even art enthusiasts, because we resonate with the art stronger when we know kind of like how it works,
the story behind it, right?
Yeah, right.
So to that point, I think players make the best collectors. Yeah, in the sense that you play this game and you build memories to it, right? And that's why people are nostalgic for Magic. They have memories that make them nostalgic. And so I think playing the game makes your collection worth more. Not in the sense of money, but like as sentimental value. Like I can go to my sample cards and go, that's a really cool card. But I can also look at some of the cards I've won from like prizing, and like I can remember that event I went to through that card. And that card is maybe a $2 card, but it's a really cool card to me. Like playing the game makes your collection more valuable, and like you have more attachment to it. It's I highly recommend playing the game to enjoy the game. Like it's I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting dynamic, because I think like sorcery really appeals to like a middle-aged demographic, and I'm always impressed with like these old school Magic guys who are like middle-aged and somehow have like time, like they carve out time as part of like a high priority in their life, even when they have kids and stuff, and they get together with their buddies and they just make it happen and play. Like I have 3 little kids, so I find that like absolutely unimaginable and impossible, and maybe it's just because of like the age of the kids right now. But it is like really cool to do, and like I wish I could more, because I played like Hearthstone as a convenience. When I was a kid, I was kind of like more balanced like yourself. I was definitely much more play oriented, and I couldn't really afford to collect. I was probably elementary school, middle school type playing Magic back.
Yeah, but if you go back and look, if you had your old collection from back then, maybe it's just a bunch of commons. And it's not worth it, but it's like, this is my cool collection I had,
right?
Because and like that memory makes those collections valuable to me.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. That's why I resonate with what you're saying. I dug it out. Like I hadn't looked at them for like 20 years, and then I dug it out, and I was like, some of the cards I just remembered the art, was super iconic. Or I remembered like friends' older brothers had these like high end cards and stuff.
This is my favorite card,
and like ones that I played a lot. Like there was this card Fork in Magic that would just like double your fire damage, and I'd always play direct damage like that. So I had to have that card as a kid. So that one's like super iconic to me. Simple too, simple artwork, everything. But yeah.
But
I
it's
think
that
you're
it's
right.
that memory that makes it valuable to you. And I would challenge people to play the game and create those memories and go from
Right.
there.
And it's such a, I think it's like a big differentiator in Sorcery too, because the card design and how like the title, the art, the type line text even, and then the mechanic are all so cohesive, and then they work so well synergistically with other cards, that it really enhances the whole experience. It puts it over the top. So,
I would fully agree.
yep. So what do you think? So you said you're super excited about Gothic. What are you thinking about Dragon Lord mini set? What's the vibe in the community on how does because like we had Secret Lair. I don't know if Secret Lair in Magic is playable. I thought it was just like an art thing, right? Or is it playable cards?
It's reprints of
Oh,
cards that
okay,
are so you can play them.
gotcha.
It's just like
Yeah.
cool art with cards
So
that are
this,
playable.
I mean, we saw some teasers. We know these are not like alternate arts, right? They're new cards. So, do you think that with what 640 cards now, I guess, in circulation, is it possible for 13 cards to move the needle from a gameplay perspective?
I mean, any avatar is going to affect the game in a meaningful way, just because
Sure.
it has the commander aspect of it. Of you always have it in your opening hand or whatever. You always have it in play. It's always going to affect something. So in that sense, yes. I don't know. You have to see the cards to know.
Yeah.
I can't. I
In
have no
theory, it's
idea.
possible, but yeah, we have no
Yes.
idea if it will or won't. What
Uh,
about is there enough core support for dragons where that can be like a big archetype at this point, or you don't
I'm,
expect like a major?
I mean, I don't think so. Right now, sorceries like best decks or whatever are value decks or like value creatures, and like Autumn
Yeah.
Unicorn is just like a good example of it. It's 3 mana for 4 power. So usually you pay 1 mana for 1 power. So you just get an above rate minion. And right now, sorcery doesn't really have a lot of like combo cards, if that makes sense, or synergistic cards. It is pure rate. It's pure value. Like you play it, what does it do when it comes in? If it can affect the board.
Do you think that could be a future? Sorry to cut you off. Do you think that could be like a future direction of the game? Because I thought it was interesting in Alpha that they had it wasn't like perfectly balanced with the different like demons, angels. What do you call those? Like subclasses or subtypes?
Types.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
types.
Yeah.
So there's all these like types, right? Even like fairies. Now you got pixies and things.
Yeah.
So like they set a foundation that was very wide and broad, but some you only had like 1, 2, 3, maybe a handful at best, and then there was more introduced in Arthurian Legends. But you're saying it really hasn't taken hold where people have a class type per se. It's more of a value engine type thing.
Yeah, it's just value cards. It's like, what does that creature do for you when it comes into play? There's no pay. It's not a whole lot of payoff cards. Like you have the Bannerman that like plus 1 power, and it asks you to play lots of little guys, so you can play this guy and buff them all up and attack for a bunch. There's also the Sealy Court and the Unsealy Court for fairies. Just like, but there isn't enough fairies to make that good enough.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just like ask that same question in 2 or 3 sets, and I'll have a different answer, I bet.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why they did. I think they did it with intention. And Eric said he's kind of got a vision for 7 sets or so. I'm sure he means that thematically and artistically, but he's also very heavy and influential in the gameplay aspect. It's not like he's delegated that function to his team. I think he does both. So I wonder like what the vision is and how that'll kind of manifest over a few more sets if it's trending that way. And we have some evidence of it in AL. Like they added more pieces, but it's still just not enough, I guess is the point.
A good example of this is Infernal Legion. He's a demon, but you don't play him because he's a demon. You play him because he comes down and deals 3 to everything. Like you play him for his effect. You don't play him because he's a demon. Yeah. I think in the future, that is like a huge design space for Eric Curioso to go into. I highly think so.
Yeah. What do you so this is a little like random question, but like having an online client, since you do TTS, right? But TTS is a proxy for just normal play, right? And it's
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen Hearthstone gameplay. It's kind of unfortunate you haven't played something like that, but in that game you get a feel for like the real effect of the mechanic. Like there's a
There's effects
splashy
and
kind of
yeah.
like, yeah, effects, right? And like Eric, coming from Path of Exile, Grinding Gear Games, he's a master at that, right? And he was the art
Yeah.
designer. From what I understand, I think he was like the first artist essentially for all the items and artifacts and relics and
Cool.
stuff. So that's kind of up his alley. We see that manifest in Sorcery now. But like he would be like the ideal guy to bring that to fruition and really bring those stories to life in a super splashy way with special effects and things. Do you think that'd be cool, or do you think Sorcery should like stay purist to old school in the flesh only? Because when
Uh,
Magic came out, I mean, internet wasn't a big, man. Like it wasn't
yeah.
mainstream. Online gaming wasn't like it is today.
I would equate TTS to, I don't know if you know what Moto is. It's MTGO.
Nah.
It's Magic the Gathering Online.
Okay.
It was their first online client. It
Yep.
is like straight out of the early 2000s, kind of like
Yeah.
UI design. It's rough.
Okay.
But then they came out with Arena, right? I feel like TTS is kind of like Magic's Moto. It's where it's the bare minimum to make it work.
Yeah.
I don't I don't think there's any desire to build their own like online client, but
Yeah.
man, it would be cool to have like you play your summer river and autumn river, and they all kind of like connect to build this river, like this water body throughout this.
That'd be amazing.
I don't know. I think you could do something really cool. It's like you play a great old one, and this giant Leviathan comes out, and
yeah,
I don't know, it'd be cool, but
it would be
who knows? In 10 years, maybe there's
yeah, maybe by the time it comes out, my kids will be old enough, or I'll be playing in store enough, right? But like for me, people like me, and people in 10 years that are like me with little kids, they're good. It's just so convenient to play online. You can just kind of do it after everyone falls asleep, and play for a few hours or whatever. And yeah, I just think he's got the skill set to make it like absolutely amazing. Some people think it would replace like in the flesh, like tangible product, but there's always, I mean, Magic does both, right?
Yeah.
You can't replace tangible cards really, and just getting the human experience of actually getting in a room with somebody, sitting across a table, and
I forget who did it on the general Discord, but they ran a question is like, do you play online? Do you have physical cards? I only play online. I only play in paper. I don't like. It was 50-50. And the players online also have physical cards. I mean, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel if I didn't have TTS, right?
Yeah,
I think it's
convenience, Yeah. Do you feel different playing it on TTS? Is it more satisfying playing in person versus TTS, or is it about the same?
It's different. I feel like I can test and cycle through iterations much quicker and like get a lot more games in than an online. Doing that online, playing in paper, I think is my preferred way of playing, just because shuffling decks and the physical aspect of moving cards around, putting a root spider under a site like that, just that action of like putting a thing under a site is really fun, and like you're building a realm, right? And you kind of lose that on TTS. So TTS to me is more of a testing ground, and like
makes sense. It's an interesting perspective. All right, I don't want to hold you. We got about 10 minutes. I don't want to hold you more than like an hour, but let's talk about like kind of, we talked about current state of the game, the evolution. Now looking forward, do you think Sorcery's in a healthy spot? Like, do you feel like it's kind of stable? Or are we losing people, or is it growing? And what's your outlook in that regard?
Let's start with the future of Sorcery. I'm very excited for the next 5 years. I think are going to be great for Sorcery. I think the current, like coming into AL beta, felt so exciting. Like the player base was excited. Right now the player base feels, now this is online. I want to specifically say this is online. I know people scream online and they have their own local people have their own local pods that are still playing. I know David and Floating Skull has like his weekly meetups, and that's like its own vibe, and like that's its own feeling. This is specifically to the people who play too much.
Okay.
So the players I feel like online, we can play 7 days a week. So we play 5 to 7 times more than any person who plays in paper, generally.
Okay. Yep.
I think it's a leading indicator of like you do anything 7 times more than anybody else, you're gonna get bored of it or faster than anybody else, or you're gonna find issues faster than anybody else. Right now, with AL being small, and we've talked about it in the past, it just feels very linear right now. There's nothing's changing very quickly. I know the meta is moving a little bit, but beta it evolved every 2 or 3 months. Beta, everything changed. Like people would come up with new decks, and like just break everything open. Like when Fury Road came out, the average mana cost of a card came down like 1.5. People used to be playing 6 and 7 drops, all just like playing these long 45-minute, hour-and-a-half games for one game. And then the aggressive decks came along, and it's like, all right, we're going to be done in 20 minutes. Like it's just something like that changed, but that was organic and came from the players. Right now, it is very stagnant, and people are feeling the frustration of a stagnant meta.
So do you think that was like a function though of that was like everybody just learning sorcery? Their first exposure to it was a massive 400 card set. There's 11, 12 avatars, something like that. So
yep, there's
a
lot of
built for like broad diversity of discovery.
Yes.
And then I guess we had beta for a long time. There was actually a pretty extensive delay on AL. I think some people forget it was really supposed to come out in 2023, so it slipped like close to a full year. Essentially. So we had, but again, it was kind of fine, because beta was so big and everybody was learning, and I think there was like really healthy growth at that time as well.
Absolutely.
So a lot of discovery. So what do you think why is AL getting stagnant? Do you just think it's because people have been playing for so long and so often, or is it because it was fundamentally like a small? I'm getting at, is it the 1 year cadence, or was it because there's only 200 some cards and not another big set?
So like there's like in card design, there's like purely being better of doing something better. So like a Red Cat Power Use is a good example of charge being better. Previously you had Chosen Cavalry at 4 mana 3/3 charge. Now it's a 3 mana 3/3 charge. Like that's just categorically better.
Yep.
And AL didn't widen the depth of deck building. It just made things better.
So you replace certain cards, same archetype, same kind of deck designs, but you had replacement cards that were a little better, a little more optimized, right?
Yes, and
it
so
didn't really massively change things. Okay.
No, like the aggressive decks are still aggressive, but they're better at being aggressive. If that makes sense. And I think AL is a smaller set. I don't know if it's because it was designed for limited, and it's a wonderful limited experience, and like constructed was kind of like not really considered as much as it should have been, or what happened. But the best things the best things from AL are the best things to be doing, but there's not like a wide variety of things to be doing.
Okay. Yeah, and that's so now like going back to our earlier point, like why didn't they just do several core sets before a limited tune set? I think like one counter argument to that point is maybe they wanted to get to the point like you're describing where that core beta set was fully fleshed out. You add AL, it's mostly limited, like tuned for limited, but also augments like the core beta set. And then by doing so, and then like concurrently, you're playtesting Gothic, as I almost said Angels and Demons because we knew for so long, but Gothic, it kind of like, it's like a risk mitigation, right? If they came out with a massive, even if it wasn't large, but if it was, let's say like Gothic has a lot of diversity, like new mechanics or new avatars that are like significantly different than the current play, there's a big risk in that if you truly don't have beta fleshed out, you could break the game, make it stupidly overpowered or underpowered or just kind of like totally broken, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't fun. And then you're introducing like real like emergency stopgaps like card bans or I don't know, like changing things on reprints and stuff, which is a mess.
Yeah. You get 2 different cards, same card, do different things. It'd be rough. Yeah.
Yeah. And the game, it's so different than other games because you can't figure that out quickly with the one set a year release. So the assumption
Yes.
is you're going to be growing quickly, and now a lot more people are coming into 600 cards, right, and not like 400 cards like you did. So it'd almost be overwhelming, I think, in a way, if they came out with several core sets and you're on ramp to the game. It widens that disparity, like you were describing earlier, where the experienced
Mhm.
player is just going to have a massive advantage over you because if you're new, you're coming into this massive card pool, wide range of options. It could be overwhelming. So maybe the experienced players, early adopters, are taking it on the chin a little bit for for new player onboarding. I guess it makes it more approachable.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because I think about even games like Hearthstone and stuff that I walked away from. Like I had a lot of fun playing it for a while, but now I've missed like few years. I just quit cold turkey because it was a stupid waste of life. So I quit cold turkey a couple times, but I really stuck to it the last time. And I think about like if I were to go pick it up, I'd probably just suck. There'd be like so many cards I'd have no clue. I'd have to
Yeah.
invest in an inordinate amount of time just to figure out where it's at,
And
which
that's
isn't
a
fun
that's a
either.
that's a benefit of the one set of years. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's new cards, but like you can come in and learn, and things aren't going to change under your feet in 3 months.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. So I think I asked you all the key points. You think so? I know, like, so what's the player sentiment? I guess last thing on like reprinting. I mean, to me, I always expected, and hey, I don't want you to trigger collectors, but to me, I always perceived beta as like a necessity. They were going to print this thing for a full year, and it was going to be like a pretty large print run because again, the assumption is you're going to. Well, it did grow very quickly after Kickstarter, and the assumption
Yes.
is you're going to be successful, and that trend is going to continue. And I thought they'd like lean into marketing, maybe go to more events, showcase the game, and it would still grow like wildfire. But I think with some supply chain disruption and stuff, they were kind of unable to do that. Like you don't want to go be like try this game out and oh sorry you can't buy it anywhere,
It's
you
two
know,
hundred fifty
or
dollars for a box. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
or it's like a bit overpriced, but you know, come on, just give it a shot. It's a
yeah,
hard sell, right? But nevertheless, with beta, I figured like eventually they'd get the supply chain figured out, distribution, and then you'd want to keep printing it to keep introducing new supply to people. And then similar with AL, they said that would be in waves. It's limited play base, so you actually need sealed product to
Mhm.
play that format. So that didn't surprise me, but it's a tricky dilemma, right? To balance collectors and players to gap a whole year and
Well,
not kind of like piss off one or the other.
so I would say I don't understand the frustration at reprinting beta. Beta
Okay,
is the
yeah,
player set. If you
that's
want
what
to
I always thought
collect
too.
and invest and do like weird monetary things, go to alpha. You know the print run. You know it's a known quantity. Like,
Yeah,
I don't understand the beta hate for getting reprinted. It is. I wouldn't say it's absolutely needed, but like a fresh supply of beta. Maybe when Gothic comes out, it takes the place of beta. You can't
hmm,
support the game on just AL reprints. It's just not going to work. And I'm pretty
yeah,
sure on Kevmo's, I could be totally wrong about this. On his interview with Simon, they said AL was like a one print and that was it. Um, Maybe there's a lot of it, but they printed it once. But
yeah.
I
It
don't know.
was it was weirdly. I think people were confused about the wording, and people like
Yes.
mince his words or Eric's every time they talk. To me, it sound he made some comment like, "When we're done printing, that's it." So like my interpretation
Mm.
was, yeah, I mean like when you stop printing, that you stop printing. Like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But other people are
Yeah.
like, oh, they printed it one time, guys. Like we'll never see it again. But
Okay.
which was kind of counter to because initially said they were gonna like I don't know,
Releasing
like some people
waves.
mince words like print in waves or release in waves. Maybe this meant it
Yeah.
was like one large print and it'll be introduced in waves. So we really know nothing. But nevertheless, I agree with you. Like beta, it just seemed commonsensical to me that on a 1 year cadence release and with the presumption that it's going to continue to grow throughout that 1 year, you would
Mhm.
have to keep printing it throughout that year to keep feeding the
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It didn't surprise me the least bit, but
My only frustration with the beta reprint is coming from distro.
yeah,
I I do not uh play new player onboarding is so important. Like, people will leave the game, people will go do other things, whatever. But are you replacing those players? Are you bringing the new people in? How are you
right.
bringing new people in? I think that's one of the biggest like struggles Sorcery has right now is how do you get new people? How do you share this awesome game that I've gotten way too addicted to? Like,
well, so my answer to that is you got to like make it a priority to go to events, like not like our events, like our tournaments. Like I do Sorcery Con, you do your scene out there in Columbus and in the surrounding states and stuff, but they need to go to like major conventions that have many games, because like you're a player, right? But you said your hook was the art, right? So you show people the art, you show up with some original paintings, posters. They have great promotional materials when they go to Gen Con, but really just literally just show people the cards. And then it's like, wow, what is that? I want to check it out, and maybe do some learn to play where you can, if there's space at these shows to do it. But I think exposure of the product, I get artists, the artists are very well traveled. They go to, they actually, some of the artists pop in their local LGS and be like, hey, you got Sorcery? And they get like pissed off on like,
I want to see my cards.
Some are super chill, but like others, like if they hear like, what is that? Like, I've never heard of Sorcery. They're like, what the? They'll like start messaging me like, Mike, what's going on with this game?
Why do they know about this?
People don't even know what it is. And I was like, dude, I don't know, man. Like it's weird. Like some people know, some don't. It's kind of niche right now, but I feel like you just got to go to conventions, because every time, like I'm sure you do the same thing with your channel and stuff or see similar effects, but I have the community group, right? And it's sometimes it's slow with like every day there's like new people joining, right? But
a little trickle.
When they go to Gen Con, and then when they go to Spiel, and then obviously when there's a set release, but when they go to those events, I see a major inflection point of growth, because a lot of people discover it, and then they go online, they type in Sorcery, and they join all the largest groups, right? So it obviously has an exposure effect, and I just think if they can find a time or like hire or leverage a community, make some hires, and go to like for a year, let's say one per quarter, that would be huge, and then that'll fill the void with new players coming in to play with you, or help you discover the meta and stuff. And I don't know. Do you find joy in teaching new players, or is it?
I love teaching new players. I like. Come on, sit down. We'll play a game. I'll explain the rules as we go, and I don't know. I really like teaching new players, and I just wish beta precons were much easier to get for the LGS. I know they don't want to be like an LGS weekly game, but a lot of people just go into LGSs and buy stuff, or like just having and like boxes on shelves sell too, but like a out of the box player experience, I think it's very important for new players. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. All right, man. Well, we hit the 1 hour mark. Was there anything else you wanted to hit on, or any parting words? Again, I really appreciate you coming on. I put your show in the notes here on the channel, so I think you're at like 700. I know like a lot of tubers like to get to that 1,000 mark is kind of like their first goal. So I hope. You know what? I noticed I went to your channel to put in the links, and like I wasn't subscribed to it somehow. It's funny because like I see I see your videos pop up, and I like watch them, and I was like, I saw the subscribe button, and I was like, holy shit! It was weird. It was just like an oversight.
I mean,
I'd urge everybody to go subscribe, and make sure like as you're watching people's videos, you got to hit the thumbs up button and like comment. Like people never comment on my videos.
I do. I specifically do not ask for subscribers or thumbs up. Or like, if you want to or enjoy it, that's awesome. I feel like that's a much better way to subscribe, because I personally, like, when somebody, I watch a YouTube video in the first 30 seconds and they say subscribe, I was like, all right, I'm out. You didn't prove to me that you're worthy of my subscription, and you're already asking for it. So I try not to ask, but yeah,
but it helps, like, because community is small, it's niche, it's really hard to grow. Honestly, if like Sorcery is the only game you're covering, it's an uphill battle, man. It's like super hard, because the game isn't like growing quickly at this point. It's gotta. I think it needs that next new set. It needs more of like a go to conventions push, and it really has like massive potential. I think if you expose it to people, they'll be super into it. It's very collectible. It's very fun to play. So it checks all the boxes. It's awesome.
Yeah. Play more Sorcery.
Yeah, man. So what's your tournament name again, and like your tournament series, and like how do people find it? Is it in a Discord, or how do you find it on TTS?
So I'll put a link in the main channel, and then I'll go to your Discord and put it. It's the Sorcerer Summit is the one myself and CJ put on. That's the online version. And if you're in the Midwest, we have a committee for the Explorer series. So like Columbus, Detroit, Louisville, Cincinnati, kind of like that section. There's going to be events every month, and usually 26 to 30 players will be there.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to connect with Brandon or Brendan, is it Renners?
Yeah, he's
And
in.
Phase.
Yeah, he's in
He's been wanting to
Cincinnati.
come on and talk about it. So it's kind of cool. You piece together like a circuit that hits a bunch of areas that people could come
Yep,
out to. We're working on some altars with the field altarists as prize support. And so
very
it's
nice.
cool. The prizing approach you guys are doing to that is cool. So
Yep.
yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming on and talking to a filthy collector art guy.
But I think I think it's different. Like you have an appreciation for the art because you have the background information and you have the conversation with the art. Like you are building memories and connections to the art in a different way
Yeah.
than playing the game. Like I
Right.
feel like if people just buy the box, rip open the box, put things in binders, and never think about it, like that's a different type of collecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate the kind words. And yeah, been really enjoying your channel. Think about more combos and like how to like tell the stories of the flavor of the game
Yeah.
through spoken voice. Like I find like when you're watching a game, it can be a little tough unless someone's a great narrator, but telling the stories and like the combos and like things that happen in game. I remember like last thing when Angerworm taught me, I had all types of memories from like different combos and effects that happened, and I had this
Yeah.
like long write up on the community group page, kind of explaining like what transpired through the whole game. And I think just kind of saying that out loud or writing it down is kind of cool and fun for other people resonate with it, even collectors. Because like when you got the art pieces, you want to know what the game pieces are doing, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like how it works in play. It brings it to life and makes it, it takes it to another level.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
cool, man. Keep up the good work, and thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I'll be around.
All right, see you, everybody. Thanks for tuning
Bye.
in.